vamos a estar leyendo una creepy story titulada It Has No Face.
Everyone has tales about the strange and bizarre. My story is about how my half-whole mask saved my life and continues to save my life to this very day. Late in December, I was traveling north from California to my home state of Oregon. Nothing fancy. I was just going to visit the family for the whole holidays, right? For the holidays. On my way north, I hit a small snowstorm. Nothing awful, just a lot of snow falling all at once. Eso no me gustó. I wasn't worried about the small increase of snow at first, considering I had snow tires installed before I started my long journey home. I did, however, get a little hesitant to drive when the snow started to really come down. The large amount of falling snow coupled with the large amount already littering the ground as I traveled higher into the mountains caused me to consider finding a place to stay for the night. I figured I could get some sleep while the storm passed over. That and the fact that I could give my car's heater a break before it would decide to burst into flames, or worse, just stop working altogether. I scanned as much of the landscape as I could, but there were no buildings in the immediate area. The only other option that I had for my predicament was to keep driving and hope there was a town or exit nearby that I could take in order to escape from the storm. I must have been driving for at least an hour before I saw a sign ahead indicating how far the closest city was. My heart sank a little when I read 162 miles as it flew by my windshield and vanished into the snowy night. At this point, the snow was beating against my windshield, and I knew that I wasn't going to last 162 minutes, let alone 162 miles. Digital clock, es que me dio risa. No sé por qué. Okay, the digital clock on my radio read 1:21 a.m., and I decided that the next turn off I saw I would take and hope that I could find the neighborhood that will produce some result on my current endeavor. That's not a good idea, right? That's never a good idea. Anyway.
Yeah, that's so dumb.
Yeah, it's stupid. Anyway, my thought process was either freeze to death in my car or stay the night at some random person's house. Horrible options. Weighing the two options in my head, I picked the only thing a sane person would pick and go with the house. No, I'd rather die. Anyway, another 30 minutes flew by, and still no luck finding a place to pull off. Just when I was starting to lose hope, I saw a turn off in the distance. A small shape started make its way closer, into my headlights, and on further inspection, it was revealed to me that they were two wooden poles that possibly belonged to a fence. That's not good. When I turned onto the road between the two wooden poles, the ground beneath me felt rocky and rough, like I was traveling on gravel. I didn't drive for too long before I started to see a small cabin. Creep into my field of view. Okay, the lights in the cabin were off, but the place seemed to be in a good shape. I parked my car under a tall, wild-looking tree that looked residence on the cabin's front lawn. Lay. Anyway, getting out of my car, I immediately grabbed my extra jacket and put it on, pulling the half-whole mask I wore around my neck up and over my ears to keep the heat around my face. I put my cap on and trudged up to the cabin after putting my cap snug on my head. Oh my god, it's getting worse. As I traveled through the cold, windy night up to what I felt was my salvation, I immediately regretted not getting any gloves for my hands. Despite the irritation I had with my hands, my face and the rest of my body were comfortably warm. So, I didn't have much room to complain. I stuffed my frozen hands deep into my pockets and continued my journey across the cabin's lawn. As I made my way to the door, I noticed something odd. There was no indication of life anywhere. There wasn't even a car in the front yard. Taking my right hand out of my pocket, I knocked 3 times, waiting patiently before saying, Hello? Is anyone in there? I'm sorry to bother you so late at night, but I need a place to stay for a few hours. Oh, nothing answered my plea for help, so I knocked 3 more times on the door, hitting my knuckles harder against the aged wood of the entrance. Hello? I said again, a little louder, before continuing with, I'm not here to rob you or anything. I just need a place to stay for the rest of the night. I promise I'll be gone by sunrise. As I finished my sentence, I touched the ornate metal door handle, noticing that the door seemed to be unlocked. I said in a loud voice, I'm coming in now. If there's anybody in there, let me know now, please. I pressed the metal lever down, finding it a bit odd that the door was unlocked, and opened the door with little resistance. I know. On the other end, closing it behind me with about the same resistance, despite the fact that the door looked really old. Looking around the area, I noticed the cabin had 5 rooms: the living room, which was the biggest room, a small kitchen, an even smaller washroom, and what I assumed were 2 small bedrooms in the back. No lights were on inside the cozy cabin, making it almost pitch dark. If my eyes weren't already adjusted to the darkness from outside, I decided the best thing to do would be to search for a light switch. So I took out my phone and turned on. Por lo menos tiene celular, ¿verdad? Like, when you read these, nunca tienen celular, pero por lo menos este tipo sí tiene.
Yeah.
Right? Oh my god. This is horrible. ¿Por dónde iba? And turn on my flashlight app. Mm-hmm.
Yo no entraría
No.
a una casa ajena.
No, exacto.
Like, that wouldn't be an option for me.
No.
Bueno, o sea, pero lo que él dice es, yo no sé, tengo 2 opciones. O me congelo afuera, o voy para esta casa ajena.
Prefiero congelarme, honestamente, because
I don't trust people.
I don't trust people either.
Mm-hmm.
O sea, okay, anyway. Flash up to scan the walls. My scan produced no results, however, and at the risk of losing precious battery power on my phone, I decided the best option would be to turn off the light and put my phone on airplane mode. Airplane mode. Yo sabía. Yo sabía. Anyway, before turning off my light, I studied the paintings hanging on the wall that I glossed over in the initial scan. Each painting that crossed my sight was just typical landscapes of harbors, things like that. There was a painting that looked like a fox hunt or something like that, but other than that, it was just typical paintings you would see hanging on the walls around an elderly person's home. There was a painting, however, that caught my attention. The painting was small and consisted of what looked like 2 adults, a mother and father, a teenage girl, and a small child. The family captured in that painting were wearing what looked like Victorian-era clothes. I'm only guessing about the clothing. I mean, they could have been from the 1800s, right? Or the early 20th century. The point is that the clothing was very ornate and regal. There was something really disturbing about the image in the painting, though. The faces of each member of the family looked like they were smoothed over with clay. It's kind of hard to describe it, but the 3 family members looked like they had no facial features. By no facial features, I mean instead of the normal facial features you and I have, the 3 people in the painting had grooves of smooth flesh, where normally you have an eye, nose, or mouth. The only person in the painting that didn't possess a blank face was a teenage girl, which had normal facial features for a teenage girl. In fact, she was quite breathtaking. Perfide. I pulled myself away from the painting to take a glance at my phone for the time. My phone indicated that it was past 2 o'clock in the morning, so I decided to go into the back room and check to see if it was occupied. To my relief, the room was vacant. Besides a medium-sized bed, ornate dresser, and nightstand, there wasn't much going on. The walls were blank beside more sappy paintings to give it a little atmosphere. Although there was no indication of a heating system besides a chimney, the rooms were bearable enough that I figured I could bundle up in my clothes under the covers in order to stay warm. I don't like this. I was only going to be there for a few hours anyway, so there wasn't much point in starting a fire. Plus, the people who owned the cabin wouldn't be back tonight, considering how late it was. I hopped into the worn-out bed, facing the open door next to another door I assumed was a closet, and pulled my half-whole mask completely up and over my face to make sure my head would stay nice and warm the rest of this day. Pulling the fabric off my mask down slightly, I set the alarm on my phone for 4:30 a.m. and put it back down on the nightstand. I covered my face again and bundled up tightly with the sheets, closing my eyes and letting dreamland take me away until I woke up after what felt like minutes later to the sound of scratching. Okay, no, wait. Okay, no, I'm a pause. Hold up. Okay, okay. Trata que te metes en la casa de alguien. Vas a su cuarto. Te metes en su cama.
¿Cómo tú vas a dormir?
Y dice, déjame poner una alarma. What? What is wrong? Who is this person? ¿Quién hace esto? I would never do that. My body froze as I heard the noise over and over again, softly coming from the closed door. I tried to relax myself by thinking that all the noise that I heard was just a rat or some other animal that was spending the night in the closet while the cabin owners were away. Quietly, I shifted into my back, pulling my half-whole mask down slightly so a little slit appeared. ¿Qué?
Que mucho fastidia con las hazard mask.
Yo no sé ni qué es eso. Deberíamos poner una foto aquí para saber qué es eso. Anyway, spending the night in the closet while the cabin owners were away. Quietly, I shifted onto my back, pulling my half-whole mask down slightly so a little slit appeared, giving me a small window to look at what was out there. I laid in the bed, stiff as a board, with my cap and mask covering my face in such a way that it acted like a visor, giving me a small peek at what was in the darkness. Thankfully, my eyes were still adjusted to the dark, which gave me a little amount of reassurance as I continued looking in the direction from the scratching noise. The scratching continued louder and longer for what seemed like minutes, until just like that it suddenly stopped. Silence filled the room again, but it wasn't a safe kind of silence. The deafening silence in the room was foreboding, ominous sort of silence. The vacuum of sound in the air was the type of silence that happens in a movie, just before something jumps out of you. Just when I began to calm myself down, the doorknob to the closet began to jiggle and turn very slowly. No. Okay. My heart was racing out of my chest as I saw and heard the knob turn. And every inch of my body wanted to bolt out of that bed, as you should. Eso es lo que debería hacer, ¿no? Irse corriendo. Like, am I crazy? Oh my God, yo me iría corriendo. Anyway, horrible. Okay, bolt out of the bed and out of that cabin before whatever was on the other side of that door got out after me. I laid perfectly still on the bed despite the fact that I had a cocktail of adrenaline, nerves, and instinct.
Está temblando y en vez de irme a correr me quedo acostada.
Me quiero ir, pero
No me puedo mover.
my eyes widened at this as the door to the closet opened slightly, and I saw what looked like a dried head attached to an elongated neck pop out of the opening, followed by a skeletal body. The thing was emerging from the closet, crawled on all fours. Ay, fool. The thing that was emerging from the closet crawled on all fours out of the doorway and slowly made its way to the bed I was sleeping in. I had never been more frightened in my whole entire life as the thing stood up, almost touching the roof of the cabin, and looked down in my direction. The creature stood there, studying me as I peeked through the thin slit in my mask, pure terror swirling around in my mind. As I glanced up at the body of the creature, looking at the creature's skeletal face, I noticed that it has no eyes in its eye sockets, which led me to believe that it couldn't see me even though I could see it. Just when the idea of it not being able to see me started to give me a little comfort, the creature began to speak. Strange! The creature whispered softly as it continued to watch me. And then it began to speak again.
It has no fear of me.
The creature continued to say in a hoarse tone as it began to breathe loudly, continuing to look at me and gripping down on the edge of my bed. Feeling the creature's bony hand touch the edge of my bed caused my brain to go into complete panic mode. The only thing that stopped me from jumping up was the thought that maybe the creature believed I was dead or asleep and wouldn't attack.
How can it not fear? How can it not fear me?
The thing said through clenched teeth, before loudly gasping and suddenly putting back with its mouth open in an expression that seemed like fear.
It has no face.
The thing whispered to itself as it continued to back away.
It has no face.
The creature said again, but this time louder than before and slightly more threatening.
It has no face.
Oh my god. The creature shouted as it backed off, further away from the bed. I heard the thing breathing loudly and quickly before calming down and slowly returning to the side of the bed. Leaning over me slowly, the creature continued to look at me before softly beginning to breathe on my Oh no! I could smell its foul breath even through my mask. The smell was so powerful that it took all of my strength not to gag as a reflex to the awful stench. In my mind, I made the choice to keep motionless and not to do or say anything that could compromise whatever illusion I was giving the thing that was truly studying me. The creature breathed on me again softly. Lo quiere besar. The stench I smelled from its breath could only be described as pure death, which only strengthened my resolve to stay perfectly motionless.
Strange.
The thing whispered at me again, leaning in close to me, ve que lo quiere besar, to the point where I could see and smell its decaying flesh. The creature slowly reached for me, its hand slowly moving towards my face. With every inch that decaying hand moved, I couldn't help but feel my situation becoming more and more dire. I thought that this was it for me. The creature would kill me tonight, or take me away and torture me, then kill me, and no one would know what happened to me. No one would find my body out there, and no one would know my story. I could feel tears start to swell up in my eyes as I thought of everyone I ever loved being yanked away from me this one moment.
No face, no face, no face.
The creature softly chanted as its hands crept over closer to my face. I could hear the anguish in the creature's voice as it continued chanting over and over as it reached for me. As the creature's long bony hand crept only centimeters away from my face, I braced myself for the worst, making the last thoughts I would ever have about the people who I loved. Just as I thought my life was all over, a sudden loud noise erupted from the room, filling the ear closest to the nightstand with a flood of beeps and causing the creature to scream and jump away. As the noise continued, the creature threw itself back against the wall, shrieking uncontrollably in terror as it stumbled back towards the closet. I was dumbstruck for a second before the thought came to me that I had set an alarm for 4:30 a.m., which must have been the source of the noise. I jumped out of the bed, grabbing my phone and pointing the lit-up screen at the monster as the alarm continued to ring loudly. The loud ringing caused the monster to shriek even more in confusion and terror as it retreated quicker as I approached. Seeing my chance, I activated my phone's flashlight and put it on strobe in order to disorientate the monster further.
Your face, the face.
The creature shrieked at me as it withdrew to safety of the closet. I continued to shine my light on the creature, and for added effect, I started playing loud music as I continued to jab my phone in the monster's direction like a lion tamer. The thing threw itself into dark recesses of the closet, and I shoved the door back, locking it after I slammed it closed. The shrieks coming from the monster started to get fainter and fainter, like it was retreating deeper into the house.
The face, the face, the face, it had no face.
I could hear the creature yell out as it got further and further away. After hearing the last retreating word of the thing that terrified me the whole night, I bolted from the cabin at breakneck speed, jumping into my car and floored it off the gravel road. I was shaking all over as I drove, and when I pulled my half-whole mask further down, my exposed skin was as white as the snow that littered the ground. I was so frightened by the whole experience. As soon as I pulled into the first town I saw, I parked my car and began to sob uncontrollably for a while. The experience that I had just been through would scar me for life, but as I wept in my car in the parking lot of a 7-Eleven, I couldn't help but start to laugh a little in between my fits of crying. I got through my ordeal without so much as a scratch on me. Well, besides the mental scars, I was fine, I was alive, and I didn't have to worry anymore.
That night, I sat on the bed in my hotel room and looked at the two items that saved my life. In one hand, I gripped onto my half-whole mask, which hid my face from that terrible monster. In my other hand, I held my cell phone, which scared away the horrible beast that could have killed me. I decided that from that day on, I would always use my half-whole mask to bed. It saved my life. That's the least I can do for it. The recent brush with death I just experienced had taught me that life is too precious to waste, so I decided to ask my best friend Samantha.
Samantha? I don't even know it's Samantha.
Out on a date, and things worked perfectly. Samantha and I were together for 2 years before I recently asked for her hand in marriage, which she said yes. Part of me will never forget that awful night, and because of it, not only have I been wearing my half-whole mask to bed every night since then, I've also made it a priority not to live in any type of house that has a basement. As an added safety measure, I started locking every door before going to bed. It's a pain, but you can never be too careful. Despite these crazy precautions, Samantha has accepted my little quirks and has continued to be supportive as we continue our journey through life together. I couldn't be happier with the way things turn out in my life, and I'm so lucky to be with Samantha. Everything's perfect. There's just one thing that bothers me, and I think I might have to blame my imagination. But sometimes when I wake up at night, when it's really quiet, sometimes I hear soft scratching noises. Also, and I think it's just paranoia, but I swear, sometimes I hear something whisper from inside my closet.